My name is Jennifer, and I'm a 30-year-old interior designer living in Charlotte, North Carolina. Life once felt so secure. I had supportive parents, a blossoming career, and a husband I adored. But everything changed when I lost my parents unexpectedly. They left me a remarkable legacy, a breathtaking mansion worth $50 million, filled with memories and their dreams for my future. My husband, Harper, and I moved into this mansion soon after their passing. Each room was a reminder of my family's love and dedication. I was determined to honor their legacy by making this house our sanctuary, a place to build our dreams and eventually start a family. Harper, a 37-year-old project manager, initially seemed supportive, sharing my excitement as we settled in. But his attitude shifted when his mother, Charlotte, learned about the inheritance. What began as warm congratulations quickly turned into something more self-serving. Charlotte started hinting at family support and the idea of sharing in each other's fortune. One afternoon, as I was finalizing a new interior design project, Charlotte showed up unannounced. Her demeanor was assertive. She didn't waste time, proposing a plan that took me aback. Charlotte wanted $12 million to buy herself a luxurious home, suggesting it was only fair she too should experience the lifestyle I was lucky enough to inherit. Her reasoning: as family, she claimed, she deserved a share of the fortune I'd inherited. Jennifer, she said with a tight smile, think of it as an investment in our family's future. After all, if you're able to live in luxury, why shouldn't we all? I was stunned. Keeping calm, I explained that I couldn't, in good conscience, give away such a large amount from my inheritance. This house was part of my family's legacy, and I had specific plans to preserve it. Her face darkened. So, you don't care about supporting your family? She retorted. She turned to Harper, attempting to involve him in the conversation. Doesn't it seem fair, Harper, that Jennifer would want to share some of what she's been given? Harper looked uncomfortable, visibly caught between his mother and me. He'd always been close to her, and I could see she was trying to pull him to her side. Jennifer, Harper said hesitantly, glancing between us, maybe we should at least talk about it. I felt my heart sink. The man who had once been my rock now seemed to be wavering. The weight of their expectations felt like a heavy burden. Please, Harper, I said, holding my ground. This house is more than just wealth. It's my parents' legacy. They worked hard to build this. It's not simply about money, it's about honoring their memory. I can't just give up such a large portion on a whim. Charlotte's eyes narrowed, her tone growing colder. A whim, Jennifer. Don't forget that you wouldn't have had anyone to lean on if it weren't for our family's support after your parents passed. And this is how you repay us. My pulse quickened, yet I kept my composure. Charlotte, I value the support you've shown me, but that doesn't mean I owe you $12 million for a luxury home. I am more than willing to help in other ways, but not in this manner. She glared at Harper, her frustration evident. Is this the woman you chose to marry, Harper? Someone who cares more about money than about family? Harper shifted uncomfortably, his gaze dropping to the floor. Jennifer, she's not asking for the entire inheritance. It's just a portion. Maybe we can compromise. My heart ached. The man I once believed would always stand by my side was now faltering. Harper, this isn't something I'm willing to compromise on. This house and the inheritance mean everything to me. I've already sacrificed a lot, and I won't be pressured into giving away what my parents worked so hard for. Charlotte scoffed, her voice tinged with contempt. Typical. You get a little money, and suddenly you think you're better than us. Family doesn't hoard, family shares. With that, she stormed out, leaving a tense silence behind. I looked to Harper, hoping he'd see my perspective, but his silence only deepened my frustration. Over the following days, Charlotte's attitude grew colder, her visits marked by icy remarks about selfishness and family obligations. Harper, rather than standing up for me, grew distant, caught between his mother's demands and my resolve. One evening, Charlotte arrived with Harper's sister, Amanda. It felt like an ambush, and I braced myself as they sat in the living room, their expressions hardened. Charlotte wasted no time. "Jennifer," she began sharply, "it's clear you don't understand family obligations. We're family, and we should all benefit from your good fortune. $12 million is a fair request, but you continue to refuse. It's incredibly selfish." Amanda joined in, her voice dripping with disdain. "It's not right for you to keep everything while we struggle. Don't you see how that makes you look?" I looked over to Harper, hoping he'd step in, but he sat silently, avoiding eye contact. Taking a deep breath, I replied, "This inheritance was meant to secure my future, not to fulfill demands that have nothing to do with actual needs. I won't apologize for protecting what my parents left for me." Charlotte's face flushed with anger. She stood abruptly, eyes blazing. "You think you're better than us because of this money, don't you? You wouldn't have anything if it weren't for this family support." I tried to keep my cool, but her words struck a nerve. "I've helped where I can, but that doesn't mean I'll hand over millions because you demand it." At that, Charlotte's patience snapped. In a swift, furious motion, she reached out and slapped me hard across the face. I staggered back, shocked, feeling the sting on my cheek. "How dare you disrespect me," she spat, her face twisted with fury. "You don't understand loyalty or family," Amanda sneered, her tone venomous. "You don't belong here, Jennifer. This house would be better without you." Steadying myself, I held back the rush of emotions. "Get out of my house," I said firmly, my voice low but unyielding. "You've crossed every boundary, and I won't tolerate this any longer." Harper stood by, frozen in shock, torn between loyalty to his mother and his commitment to me. But instead of defending me, he looked away, refusing to meet my gaze. As Charlotte and Amanda left without a hint of remorse, I felt a surge of strength. Straightening myself, I touched my cheek, the sting reminding me of how far they had pushed me. "Harper," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of hurt and determination. "Are you really going to let this happen? Your family just attacked me in our home, and you're standing here saying nothing." Harper looked torn, his voice barely a whisper. "Jennifer, maybe if you just listened, this wouldn't have happened." His words hurt deeper than the slap. "So you think I deserve this?" I asked, my voice filled with disbelief. "You're willing to let them treat me like this and then blame me for it?" Charlotte's words echoed in the air as she walked out, her voice sharp. "This isn't over, Jennifer. Either you give us what we're due, or you'll regret it." I felt my patience snap. "I've had enough. You can't bully me into handing over what's mine, and if you won't leave willingly, I'll ensure you're forced out." I took a deep breath, pulling out my phone and dialing my lawyer. Charlotte's face twisted in fury as she tried to snatch my phone, but I stepped back, keeping it out of her reach. "You're making a mistake," she hissed. "You're turning against family." "You'll regret this, Jennifer," Amanda added. "No one goes against us and wins." Holding up my hand, I stopped them. "I've heard enough. Leave my house now. If you come here again without my permission, I'll involve the authorities." Charlotte scoffed, her expression defiant. "We'll see about that." With a final glare, Charlotte and Amanda stormed out, leaving an oppressive silence in their wake. Harper lingered for a moment, casting one last conflicted look in my direction before following them out, leaving me standing alone in my home. As soon as they left, the weight of what had happened hit me. I had been attacked in my own home, and Harper, the man who had once promised to stand by me, had chosen his family over me. The betrayal felt like a physical blow, but I knew I couldn't allow them to intimidate me into giving up my inheritance. I picked up my phone and called Mr. Thomas, my lawyer, explaining the entire situation. He listened patiently, his voice calm and reassuring. "Jennifer," he said, "it sounds like your in-laws are attempting to exploit your inheritance. We can take immediate legal steps to secure your property and prevent any further harassment. My advice is to file for a restraining order against them. This will ensure they cannot approach you or the mansion without serious consequences." Relief washed over me. "Thank you, Mr. Thomas. I'll gather any documents you need right away. I just want to ensure they can't pull any more stunts like this." "Good plan," he replied. "Also, document everything that happened today, including the physical attack and any witnesses if possible. This will help us build a strong case." Determined, I spent the next few hours gathering all relevant paperwork, property deeds, my parents' will, and any documents proving my sole ownership of the mansion. I carefully documented every detail of the confrontation, including Charlotte's physical assault and Harper's refusal to intervene. The following day, I met with Mr. Thomas at his office. I handed over the paperwork, and he quickly filed for a restraining order against Charlotte, Amanda, and anyone else who attempted to violate my rights to the property. Within days, the restraining order was in place, and for the first time in a while, I felt a sense of peace. However, Harper's behavior only became more distant. He avoided eye contact, spent most of his time at his mother's, and showed no signs of remorse for his family's actions. One evening, Harper returned home, looking somber. He sat across from me, fidgeting uncomfortably. "Jennifer, this whole situation has gotten out of hand," he began. "My family feels betrayed. Can't we find a way to resolve this without dragging it through the courts?" I looked at him, my patience thinning. "Harper, your family has crossed every boundary imaginable. Charlotte physically attacked me, and you stood by saying nothing. This isn't just a disagreement, it's about protecting what's rightfully mine." He sighed, looking away. "I just don't want to lose my family." I could feel the pain in my voice as I replied, "And what about me, Harper? I was supposed to be your family too. You're asking me to give up my parents' legacy as if it means nothing. Is that what family loyalty looks like to you?" He didn't respond, and after a tense silence, he stood up and walked away, leaving me with a heavy heart yet more resolute than ever. Days passed, and I focused on reinforcing my boundaries. I was determined to protect my inheritance and my parents' legacy, even if it meant standing alone. Harper grew more withdrawn, choosing to spend most of his time with Charlotte and Amanda. Just when I thought things had finally quieted down, Charlotte made an even bolder move. One afternoon, she arrived at the mansion with Amanda and Harper's brother, Jeremy. To my shock, they had brought movers and were prepared to take possession of the house as if they had every right to it. Watching them from the window, fury and disbelief surged through me. How could they blatantly ignore the restraining order and assume they were above the law? Without hesitation, I picked up my phone and dialed 911. "Hello, this is Jennifer Blake," I said calmly. "My in-laws are trespassing on my property despite a court-ordered restraining order. They've even brought movers to forcefully enter my home. I need the police here immediately." The dispatcher assured me that officers were on their way. Steeling myself, I went outside to confront them, unwilling to let them bully me further. Charlotte spotted me, her face twisted in disdain. "Jennifer, stop this nonsense. This is a family matter, and the police have no place here. If you had an ounce of decency, you'd share what you have." I held my ground, my voice steady. "This is my home, and you have no right to take it from me." Amanda stepped forward, her tone mocking. "You're making this harder than it needs to be, Jennifer. Just hand over the $12 million and make it easier on everyone." Before I could respond, I heard sirens approaching. Charlotte's face paled as the reality of the situation sank in. The police arrived, assessing the scene with serious expressions. I approached one of the officers and handed over the restraining order. "Officer, these individuals have been ordered by the court to stay away from my property. They're violating that order and attempting to seize my home," I explained. The officer nodded and turned towards Charlotte, Amanda, and Jeremy with a stern look. "Ma'am, you are trespassing on private property and are in violation of a court-issued restraining order. You must leave immediately, or we will be forced to take legal action." Charlotte's voice turned shrill as she protested. "This is family business. You have no right to interfere." The officer remained resolute. "If you refuse to comply, you will be arrested." Reluctantly, Charlotte stepped back, her eyes seething with fury as she glared at me. "This isn't over, Jennifer. You'll regret turning your back on this family." I met her gaze with newfound strength. "You're no longer welcome here, Charlotte. This is my home, and I won't let anyone take it from me." As the officers escorted them off the property, I felt a wave of relief. I had taken a stand, defending what was mine against those who sought to manipulate and control me. After that day, I felt something shift inside me. The confrontation had been exhausting, but it also marked the end of an era. I realized I could no longer share my life with someone who allowed his family to trample over my dignity and boundaries. The betrayal ran too deep, and I knew it was time to make a clean break for the sake of my peace and future. Later that evening, Harper returned, looking tired and conflicted. I could tell he'd heard about what happened from his mother. His face held a mixture of anger and sorrow as he approached me. "Jennifer," he began softly, "we can't keep doing this. This isn't the life I envisioned for us. My family is hurt and feels abandoned. Isn't there a way we can avoid all this legal conflict?" I looked at him, feeling a mix of sadness and clarity. "Harper, I gave your family every opportunity to respect my boundaries. I tried to find common ground, but they refused to listen. Your mother physically attacked me, and you just stood there. This isn't just a family disagreement, it's a matter of safety, respect, and protecting what's rightfully mine." Harper sighed, unable to meet my gaze. "I just don't want to lose my family," he muttered. "And what about me, Harper?" I replied, my voice trembling with emotion. "I was supposed to be your family too. But every time they made demands, you chose them over me. Is that the kind of loyalty I'm supposed to accept?" A heavy silence filled the room as my words settled over him. Harper shifted uncomfortably and finally seemed to understand that this was the end. His shoulders slumped, and he nodded slightly, unable to hold my gaze. "I guess I can't undo what's already happened," he whispered, almost to himself. "No, Harper," I replied gently. "And I can't keep sacrificing my peace for a relationship that's one-sided. It's time for both of us to move forward." With that, I asked him to gather his belongings and leave the mansion. There were no arguments, no pleas to reconsider. Within hours, he was gone, and I stood alone in the quiet of the mansion. Though I felt the weight of the decision, I also sensed a newfound lightness, knowing I had reclaimed control over my life. In the following weeks, I channeled my energy into rebuilding. I hired contractors to restore and redesign parts of the mansion, transforming it into a reflection of my resilience and independence. Each room became a tribute to my journey, each piece of art or furniture a symbol of my strength and new beginnings. The mansion, once a solemn reminder of my parents' legacy, was now a sanctuary, a place of empowerment and freedom. I reconnected with friends, poured myself into my work, and even began volunteering in local art programs to give back to the community. With every step forward, I felt the weight of the past lift, replaced by a sense of quiet confidence and joy I hadn't known in years. One evening, as I watched the sunset from the mansion's grand balcony, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. The journey had been painful, but I had emerged stronger, more self-assured, and ready to embrace the life I had fought so hard to protect. This mansion was no longer just a house, it was a testament to my courage and a reminder of the strength I possessed to stand on my own. For the first time in years, I was ready to move forward, knowing that my life was now entirely my own and that I had the power to shape my destiny, free from the shadows of the past. If you enjoyed Jennifer's story of strength and resilience, don't forget to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Stay tuned for the next tale of unexpected twists and unforgettable moments.